Hi everyone, and welcome to the workshop Writing Your Resume and Cover Letter. This workshop is brought to you by the Career Development Center here at Kutztown University. This presentation is going to be all about the best and most effective way to write a resume and cover letter from start to finish. First, let's see how good you are at catching mistakes. Take a few minutes and look over this resume and see if you can find all of the mistakes that are on it. Let's start off with the resume. So first, what is the purpose of writing a resume? Well, most students think you write a resume to get a job, which is true, but the first step is to get an interview before you can actually get the job. So the main purpose of the resume is to make sure that you obtain an interview. Your resume also markets you. It's your sales instrument. It summarizes who you are for the employer, it presents your strongest qualifications, and it also changes to meet the needs of the employer. So you want to make sure that your resume is being tailored to the position that you're applying for or the specific employer. Also, you want to make sure that you keep it updated with new pertinent information. While all of the information on there is extremely important, you want to make sure that you're keeping it updated with new jobs, or if you attended a new grad school, or if you have another degree, you want to make sure that all of that new information is on there as well. When writing your resume and cover letter, it's important to keep in mind the 3 C's, which are clear, consistent, and concise. Clear just means that after the employer or the recruiter are done reading your resume or cover letter, they don't really have too many questions about what you were trying to say to them. Consistency refers to the layout and the format of your documents so that your spacing is the same throughout, you're using the same font size and the same font style. And then finally, concise. Employers and recruiters don't really look at resumes that long, so you want to make sure that it's not an extensive amount of pages or that you're using a lot of different bullet points. You really want to make sure that you're sticking to a one-page document, and then as you graduate and get more experience, that's when your resume is really going to grow. One of the first sections that students typically tend to put on their resumes are objectives or profiles. An objective is really more of what you want, and a profile is more of what you have to offer. Both of them are optional, they are not required on a resume, but if you want to put them on, it's absolutely okay, or if you need a space filler, these are a good thing to put on. They really focus on the function, not the job title. And they are going to be tailored to each position. So if you're applying for a sales associate versus a management position, your objective or your profile are going to change. And you want to be sure not to use a self-serving objective. It's not how you will benefit from the employment, except if it's for an internship. And also, if you are willing to relocate, this is where you're going to put it on your resume. If you're wondering what an objective or a profile would look like, here are some examples. The first one, summer internship to improve research and organizational skills while learning about the field of law. This one is going to read as more of an objective because it is stating what the student wants. The second one, bilingual senior majoring in criminal justice, educated in the fields of law enforcement, the courts, and corrections, seeking fall semester internship with at-risk teens. The second one is more of a profile because it is stating what the student has to offer to the employer or the recruiter by stating what they are educated in. You'll notice it will also say what they want to do, so make sure that you put that in if you're doing a profile as well. And the last one, summer job in the field of marketing with a special interest in advertising. Just like the first one, this is stating what the student wants, so this would be an objective. The next section you might have on your resume is skills and qualifications. This is a good section to have because it lets employers know right away if you have the skills necessary to get the job done. In this section, you want to make sure that you don't sell yourself short. Use your skills, strengths, or personal qualities which are relevant to the objective and set you apart from other candidates. Your skills and your qualifications should be tailored to the positions that you are applying for. You want to make sure that you avoid common buzzwords so that you're not putting down the same words that all the other candidates that are applying for the position are putting down. This section is really a good way for you to differentiate yourself. Some things to add in this section would be descriptive words any language skills that you may have, public speaking skills and presentations, any equipment that you may have used or have experience using, research techniques, or any computer or program skills. And make sure if you are using programs that you're putting down the specific name of those programs. The education section is one you definitely want to make sure you have listed on your resume. Sometimes this section can be a little bit confusing for students. You definitely want to make sure that you have your degree listed on there, so whether it's a BS, BA, BSBA, whatever it may be. Then you want to have the full name of the school. So for Kutztown, it's not just Kutztown University, it's Kutztown University of Pennsylvania. Then you want to make sure that you include the city and the state. You also want to have any majors, minors, concentrations, anything like that. Month and year of graduation are also included. And in this section, you can also include your GPA if it's a 3.0 or higher. If you are struggling with your GPA, we always recommend taking a look at your overall GPA and or your major GPA. If you attended any other colleges, you want to be sure to list them as well. Study abroad experience can also be listed here. In this section, students tend to put their high school information a lot of the times, but actually you want to make sure that you remove any high school information in your education section. So you'll see at the bottom of the slide there's an example where it lists the degree, so Bachelor of Arts at Kutztown University of Pennsylvania. Major and minor are bolded. Over in the right margin you have the city and the state, and then the month and year of graduation. You don't want to put expected graduation or graduating in, you just want to list the month and the year, and then followed by the GPA. And you'll also see there is an Associates of Arts degree listed that was received from Reading Area Community College, which follows the same format. And same thing with study abroad. Following the education section, if you want to and have the room for it, you can create a section called Related Courses. It's an optional category, so it's not necessary to have on your resume. Not all majors are the same, so it is good for employers or recruiters to see exactly what classes you are taking. It shows employers your educational background. If you are putting this section on your resume, we recommend listing only higher level courses, so your 300 and 400 level classes. Intro classes, really a lot of other people can take that aren't in your major, so those typically we say to leave off of your resume. Only the higher level courses that are going to be more major specific. Next is the experience section, which tends to be a pretty large section on students' resumes. In the experience section, it can be categorized, so whether it's an internship experience, related work experience in general, volunteer experience, or research experience. In this section, you want to make sure that you list everything in reverse chronological order, so that means your most recent experiences will be listed first. When formatting your experience section, you want to be able to list your title, the employer, the city and state, and the date range. The date range typically gets aligned in the right margin. You also want to be sure to include your duties and responsibilities to tell employers or recruiters what you are doing at that job. Use action verbs to describe your duties and responsibilities, and make sure that if it's a previous job that you're writing in past tense, and if it's a current job that you're writing in present tense. You want to use any keywords, phrases, or lingo that are going to stand out to an employer. And in this section, your description should be what you learned and what you gained from your experiences. Here is an example of what the experience section might look like for you. So if you've done an internship, you'll have a separate internship experience section. This is typically listed before any other work experience. You'll have the job title, intern, and then the employer, which was City Federal Savings and Loan, and then in the right margin you'll have the city and state followed by the date. And then underneath you'll have your bullet points. This one is managed assigned financial projects for lending department, presented independent projects at management meetings, and represented the firm with prospective commercial clients. So it really goes into detail about what the intern did while they were there. And then you might have a general work experience section where you'll have the exact same format. A really great section to have on your resume is campus leadership and involvement. Employers and recruiters really like to see that you're being involved in things on campus and that you are taking on leadership positions. So some of the things that you could include on there are career certificate programs, any clubs or organizations that you're involved with on campus, and you want to make sure that you list the positions that you've held. So whether you're a member, if you're a secretary, president, you want to make sure that you're listing those. Any professional association memberships, conferences and workshops that you've been to, any research or publications, and hobbies and interests if it's pertinent to the position. You can also include a section called Honors and Awards. In here you can put Dean's List, which could also go in education, but if you don't want it there, it can go in Honors and Awards, and any nominations, even if you didn't win, or any other awards that you may have received. So again, here's an example of what the campus leadership and involvement section might look like for you. So if you're a member, you'll just write member and then the club or organization that you were part of, the city and the state in the right margin, and then the dates that you were involved. You'll see on the next one, treasurer of Bonner Hall Council, Kutztown University, city and state, and again, dates in the right margin. If you do hold any type of leadership position, you want to make sure that you're listing that in bold so that it really stands out to the employer. And then for honors, this is just an example of what it could look like. Kappa Delta International Honor Society, Dean's List, and Mary J. McCarthy Academic Scholarship. And you want to be sure to put the dates for all of the honors or involvement that you are putting on your resume. Many times students will include references directly on their resume, but they're actually going to go on a separate page with your resume header. So it's going to be a completely different document. You want to be sure to include in your references the full contact information for each reference. You could also put the tagline available upon request if you wanted to. So how do you know who to ask and how many to get? Well, you want to make sure that you're asking permission first and foremost. You want to be able to thank them and send them your resume to assist them with writing your recommendation letter. Make sure your resume is up to date if you are sending it. If you do get hired, you want to send them a thank you and send them an updated resume. It's really important to maintain your network because it's going to benefit you in the end. Remember to name your files with your full name, as you will often be emailing the file to employers. So an example would be Jane Smith resume. A lot of times employers will save resumes to their computer, and if it doesn't have your first and last name, it will be very difficult for the employer or the recruiter to find your resume or cover letter. Okay, so now let's get into the cover letter. The cover letter is actually a business letter, and it really makes a critical first impression. It complements but does not duplicate your resume, so there's going to be some slight differences. It connects the employer's position's requirements to your resume, and it adds a personal touch. It expresses your thoughts and beliefs, not just the facts. When you start writing your cover letter, it's important to know what questions the cover letter should answer. So first and foremost, you want to be sure to answer why you are interested in the position, organization, industry, or program. You also want to answer how you have demonstrated the skills and qualities that the employer or graduate school are seeking, so you want to be sure to focus on what their needs are. The next one, have you articulated what you learned or gained from your education and experiences? And lastly, have you focused on what you can provide, not what you can't? Be aware of some of the common mistakes students typically make when writing their cover letter. First and foremost is definitely poor grammar and incorrect spelling. Proofread, proofread, proofread. Use grammar and spell check when writing your cover letter. You also want to avoid the overuse of the word I. You want to make sure that you're expressing yourself but not starting every single sentence with I. Make sure that you vary your sentence structure and use compound sentences. Also, you want to avoid the use of contractions, so instead of saying I'm, you'll write out I am. And repeating what's on your resume instead of summarizing and drawing conclusions. So you don't want to just be listing your job title over and over again. You really want to make sure that you are writing down what your responsibilities were and how they tie back to the position that you're applying for. You also want to make sure that you avoid not addressing the employer's needs or interests. So, again, tying it back to what their qualifications are for that specific job and what their needs are for that specific position. And your cover letter should never be more than 1 page. So, did you know that there's 2 different types of cover letters? The first one is the letter of inquiry, so you're inquiring if they have any openings within their company. And the second one would be a letter of application, so that you are actually applying for a position. The main difference between the 2 different types of letters is in the first paragraph. With resumes, there's a little bit more leniency with types of format, but for cover letter, it's pretty straightforward. First, you're going to start out with your date, the employer address, and then the salutation. You want to make sure to use a colon instead of a comma since it is a business letter. Then you're going to have your body paragraphs, about 3 to 4, with no indentations, and you're going to double space in between them, so it's going to follow a block form. Then you're going to have your closing, which includes sincerely. You're going to leave a little bit of room for your signature, and then add your contact information. And then finally at the bottom, you'll write enclosure if you're enclosing your resume with your cover letter. Now we're going to go through each section of the format that we just went over. So first is the date and employer and the address and salutation. So when you're writing your cover letter and you're writing out the date, you want to make sure that it's the date that you're actually writing the letter. And do not abbreviate the date, be sure to write it out. Then you're going to leave 4 blank lines, write the employer name and address, 1 blank line, and then followed by Dear Mr., Mrs., Doctor. Make sure you try to get the contact information. If you can't get the contact information, that's okay. Just address it as Dear Hiring Manager or Dear Search Committee, something along those lines. This is an example of what the date, employer, address, and salutation should look like. So you'll write out the full date of when you are writing the letter, leave those 4 blank lines, then you're going to write the name of the employer and the address, and then you're going to leave 1 blank line, and then followed by the salutation. Next comes the first body paragraph. In the first paragraph, there are a few things you want to be sure to add. First and foremost, who you are, so your degree and your major. Then, in what area or position you are interested in. Where or who you learned of the vacancy or the position opening. When you're going to graduate, or if you're relocating, when you're going to move to that area. And why you are writing, so if it's an inquiry or a letter of application. Then comes the second body paragraph, and this is really what we call the power paragraph. So it really talks about what's special about you. You want to highlight 1 or 2 of your special contributions or achievements that are relevant to the position. So again, tying back what you've done at your previous jobs to the position that you are applying for. You want to focus on your functional skills and abilities, identifying personal qualities, but you want to make sure that you're not repeating exactly what is on your resume or giving too many details so that your cover letter is more than 1 page. Remember, you're trying to sell yourself. Lastly comes the third body paragraph, and this paragraph really reminds the reader why you're writing. In this paragraph, you can also ask to arrange for an interview. It's okay to be assertive in this paragraph. We recommend not saying that you look forward to hearing from them. Instead, you want to make them aware that you will be contacting them. And you want to be sure to end with a thank you. It goes a very long way. Finally comes the closing. So you want to make sure that you close the letter with sincerely. Then you're going to leave those 4 blank lines like we talked about for your signature. But don't forget to actually sign your letter. If you're leaving the room there to sign it, make sure that you actually do so. Type out your name and your contact information. Then leave 2 blank lines and type the word enclosure to indicate that you have enclosed your resume as well. The final thing I have to say to you are just some things to keep in mind while you're writing your resume and your cover letter. When you're writing both documents, your resume paper, font, and size should definitely match the paper, font, and size of your cover letter. Do not staple your resume and your cover letter together, or if you're resume is more than one page, never staple it, always paperclip it. You want to make sure that you print out each document on separate sheets. If you do front and back, some information might get missed. And correct spelling and title of the contact name is very important. Proofread, proofread, proofread. We cannot stress enough how important proofreading is. You don't want to hand in a resume or a cover letter or both with mistakes on it. And finally, the Career Center does have a review service that you can take advantage of. Monday through Friday, 2 to 4 p.m., we have quick question walk-in hours where you can walk in with a hard copy of your resume or cover letter and sit down one-on-one with a staff member to have it reviewed. Sign up for our certificate programs to start working on your professional development as a student. The Career Exploration Certificate is for freshmen and sophomores, and the Career Success is for juniors and seniors. You can sign up at the link below. Thank you for listening to the workshop Writing Your Resume and Cover Letter. Again, this is brought to you by the Career Development Center here at Kutztown University, and we are located in 113 Stratton Administration Center. Our hours are 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Monday through Friday, and you can contact us at 610-683-4067 or send us an email to careerhelp@kutztown.edu.